What do you say, everybody? Welcome to the Bama Tailgate YouTube channel. We are live right now, and we're going to talk about, we're going to watch Tommy Rees and talk about the Alabama offensive coordinator and what he had to say in his press conference. Alabama gets set to take on Michigan in this year's Rose Bowl game, so it's going to be a big one. The winner goes to the national championship, and we'll be following that as well. So let's get this party started like this. All right, Roll Tide with Brett Elmore from WJLX. I'm Mick Gillispie. Brett, we've got so much going on today. I mean, there's just so much to talk about with this football game. The fact that Alabama has decided that they're not going to use their iPads to watch film tells you that they think that Michigan's capable of stealing their iPads, at least what's on there.
What a crazy day, Mick. What a crazy day. A lot of interviews today. I think 4, maybe 5 players were interviewed today out in Pasadena, and including Tommy Rees, the offensive coordinator. But, that was the news that came out a little bit earlier about the team not using the iPads as they traditionally do, kind of watching film together, and I'm sure that's something we'll be talking about here on the channel. But 4 more days, Mick. 4 more.
Yeah, Alabama. Yeah, Alabama and Michigan coming up. So we don't ever get a chance to hear Tommy Rees.
No.
Let's pop him up. He's about to come on stage. We'll hear what he has to say, and then you and I will kind of pop back in and talk about it. Roll Tide to all you guys hanging out with us, by the way. Joe Ogle, Roll Tide Roll, my friend. Bob, great to see you. Roll Tide. Crimson CB Tide, Roll Tide. All right, there's Tommy Rees. Let's pull out and let's listen to what he had to say.
Yeah, Coach. Good. Let's go ahead and get started here. There's a lot.
Thank you.
Obviously needing some help with his lapel mic because he's so unused to talking. There he is.
Coach, I want to ask you about how this year's been. Some up and downs with the offense. Week 2, week 3, benching the quarterback, and now you're considered one of the top offensive coordinators in the game. Is that the game of football, ups and downs?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think it's part of what you go through in a transition. Obviously, we had relatively young offense and new faces that we were trying to figure out who we were. A lot of the credit goes to the staff that we have, and they've worked tirelessly to continue to improve our roster, continue to get our players better. Our players have put in a tremendous amount of effort and work to get to where they've become. I think each week we're kind of able to stack things on top of each other and add wrinkles to what we're doing offensively and really expand on the system that was in place and what we were trying to accomplish. But it takes a whole effort from a lot of people. We have a tremendous staff that have worked really hard and bought into what we were trying to do. I think everybody kind of just kept going, and there were some hard times, and that's part of this game, but I think ultimately we've become better for it. Our players just kind of kept working, never really dipped in their belief of what we could become, and, without that adversity, I don't think, we're in the spot we're at right now. And so, as a guy that's in front of the group, and we always talk about it being a we, us, our offense. I'm extremely proud of the effort and the work that's been put in to become where we're at. It's not about me. It's not about any individual. It's about the group collectively putting in the time and effort to get to where we've been. And look, hopefully we continue to build off of that momentum. And, our focus is on the task at hand. And that's one thing our group has done a great job all year is, what are we trying to accomplish today? And let's focus on that. And, again, just extremely proud and fortunate to be with the group of players and coaches that we have here. And, it's been a pretty surreal experience for me, and it brings a lot of gratification to what we do.
Coach, how have you seen Jalen Milroe take the biggest improvement from game number 1 to game number 13?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Jalen's put in a lot of effort and work to improve his game. I think his overall control of the offense and what we're asking him to do, I mean, each week, like I said, we're trying to stack things up on top of each other and add to what we do and enhance what we do. And it's probably week 8 or 9, I kind of pulled him aside during a practice and I say, hey, it's pretty cool where we're at now, where we were 8 weeks ago. And look at all the things now that we're asking you to do, all these different things that now you're in control of. And, you know, for a young quarterback that, you know, he hadn't played a lot of football coming into the season, that's part of the progression. And all the credit goes to Jalen. I mean, the adversity he went through, the humility he handled it with, the ability to persevere and put his head down and work, to want to be better, to want to get better, to want the challenge of being the guy in front of the group, to want the challenge of we're going to continue to add to this thing and try to enhance your strengths. Again, all the credit goes to him. And so, you know, to see him take control of the offense, to see him, you know, as a passer develop, to see him be decisive in his ability to run the football, like all those steps were, you know, his effort, his time on task, his work to put in. And again, like I talked about being proud of the entire group. You know, that relationship with him, you know, you don't get that experience very often, and to say I'm proud of him would be a vast understatement. And but again, he deserves the credit to where he's been, and he's a great competitor. He's mentally tough as anybody you'll find. It's a lot of credit to, you know, his parents and what they've been able to raise him and to be the young man that he is. And he's been I've been really fortunate to coach him and help, you know, him along this path. But again, he deserves the credit. He's done a tremendous job of working towards his goal all year.
Tommy, when Coach Saban spoke at Disney yesterday, he said a turning point for the offense this year came when the staff made a decision to maybe do less of what the staff wanted to do offensively and focus more on what suited the talent. Was that decision made coming out of USF? And can you just kind of walk us through what that entailed?
Yeah, that's kind of the progression, you know, I'm talking about of stacking things on top of each other, where we want to be. You know, I think when we made the decision after USF, hey, we're going to try to build things around what we do really well, build it around Jalen. You know, that took a couple weeks to transpire. You know, you look at the A&M game where we threw it around because we kind of knew that's what we needed to be that week and build the pass game around what Jalen likes, to where we're at against LSU and start implementing some of the run game stuff for Jalen. And then, you know, what are the matchups we try to find with our skilled players? You know, who out of the backfield can we use in different spots? You know, obviously Kendrick Law's package about, you know, developing and, you know, really finding the strengths of who we are and saying, let's put everything around these guys. And, you know, that's been a turning point, absolutely. But I think it, you know, ultimately starts with the quarterback and making sure that he's confident and comfortable in what we're doing. And when you give them ownership and you give them, you know, the autonomy of what we're trying to do, I think, you know, they buy in a little bit more. And that's what we've tried to build with our entire roster on offense. And again, it takes a total buy-in from the staff and the players, which we've had. And, you know, USF, obviously everybody's going to look at that as the turning point. But, you know, you really look at, you know, the A&M game, you know, probably the LSU game as opportunities that we built off of and, you know, gave us our identity as we come through this final stretch.
What was it like for you behind the scenes, your first year in the job, coach as demanding as Nick Saban is trying to get through that early part of the season and some of the pressure that came along with it?
Yeah, I mean, look, you come to Alabama for certain reasons, and you want to be at a place where football is important. You want to be at a place where that pressure's there. Like me personally, that's never anything that I've shied away from. You know, I know there's noise out there, but you try not to get in the weeds of that, and you put your head down and you work. And I think certain people can handle it and certain people can't. You know, at a young age playing the position, you face adversity, and I think that's prepared me for my career, which I'm fortunate for. You know, I threw a lot of interceptions, so there was a lot of criticism that came with that. So that's never anything that's fazed me. You know, again, like I said, I want to be at a place where the pressure's high. I want to be at a place where the demands are what they are. Like, you don't come here thinking it's going to be anything different. You come here for that challenge. You come here because you have that competitive spirit. Again, some people can and some people can't. You know, I'd like to be on the side of people that can. And, you know, you just put your head down and you find a way to keep working and you find a way to better the offense. You find a way to give your players a chance. You find a way to get the most out of your staff and your guys. And like I said, that's what we've been able to do. Coach has been great all year, you know, and again, we just continue to challenge ourselves to find a better way, to find ways to enhance what we're doing. And, it's led to some success, and, we're hungry for more. But those challenges, that's what you want. That's what you come to a place like this. That's why you're in the SEC. Like, for me personally, that was a challenge that I was welcoming to. And, I'm proud of the group, proud of what we've been able to accomplish. But, those challenges personally, you just put your head down and work. That's really all there is. There's no other way to get through hard times than put in the effort and the time to find a way through it.
How similar is your personality to Jalen's? He talked a lot about embracing hard yesterday.
Jalen's probably got a little bit more personality than I do, I would think. I think I have a unique perspective of playing the position and going through some hardships that I'm able to relate to. But, Jalen, his mental toughness is greater than mine ever was. And, we can have light moments where I can, if he's amped up, I can try to settle him down by, cracking a joke, and I can be dry and all that and make him laugh. But our relationship has grown tremendously over the last 11 months. And like I said, he's a joy to coach, man. I mean, his ability to block everything out, be centered and focused on what he's trying to accomplish, wanting to be better, the humility that it takes to accept those challenges. He's really a special kid. He really is. And I'm fortunate to be around him every single day.
Tommy, how much of a learning curve was it coming to Alabama and kind of learning Coach Saban's philosophy and then incorporating it into your scheme of what you do?
Yeah, I mean, I think right off the bat, that comes with the job. The learning curve is learning the system and learning your players and learning kind of what their strengths are and then learning how to reach them. I think our job as teachers and coaches is to reach our players to be able to maximize their ability. So, you come to a new system, a new program, new players, and you got to find ways to reach them, and you got to find ways to maximize what they can do and ultimately get the best out of them. So, that's time on task. That's the ability to be with those guys every day. So some of those things you start to develop the rapport with and relationships with, and then, when you can show them why we're doing certain things, that enhances their belief. The curve of learning the system and all that, I think that gets a little bit overblown. There's only so many things you can do on a football field. What you call it is what you call it. That's never anything that's difficult to learn for one individual. So I completely agree with the philosophy of keeping things consistent. And, it's your job as the coordinator to make sure you're on top of it and ready to go. And, I would say there is a curve, but it's not as steep as maybe it's made out to be.
Tommy, Coach Saban's known for his defensive prowess, but as long as he's been around the game and as successfully as he has been, does he ever coach you up with offensive stuff in the game, or does he not get enough credit for his offensive knowledge of the game?
Yeah, I mean, he's brilliant, right? And I think the ability for us as an offensive staff to meet with him as frequently as we do and hear his perspective coming from the other side of the ball is extremely valuable. And you're right. I mean, that's something that probably, I don't know if it's talked about or not, but that is part of the, secret to success, I would think. He has his hands on the three phases of the game, and he's able to look at all three phases. And like I said, I mean, he's a brilliant football mind. So for us to have that as a, using the word resource seems like it's downplaying it, but to have that ability to see his perspective from defense of how we're trying to attack teams and, his input here and there, it adds value to our entire system. And, obviously it's his offense. He sets the program and he sets the tone for what we're trying to accomplish. And, his ability to give us feedback has been, extremely helpful throughout the season. It's something that, we, ask for too. Like, hey, how would you guys adjust to this? What difficulties does this present? And, it helps both sides of the ball.
Tommy, what was your initial reaction when Tyler told you he was planning on transferring in order to pursue lacrosse?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the kid's gone through a lot of, adversity throughout his career, and his ability to, find peace in what he wants to do. And, my biggest thing is I want him as an individual, as a person, to be happy. So if that's what's going to bring him happiness, if that's going to allow him to graduate and do certain things, then, I was in full support for the young man to have success in his life. And I think that gets underrated in this whole thing in football and in the transfer portal world. Like, at the end of the day, these are young men trying to make decisions, and like their happiness and their fulfillment in life is extremely important. If that's what's going to bring it for him, then, I fully support, whatever Tyler wants to do. I've known him since he was 15 years old. So, the things that is going to bring him that, I would like to support him. And I told him whatever I can do to help you, I will help and supplement you any way I can. And, he's been tremendous with the guys in the room all year, and they've really built a great rapport. And I'm glad he's here, through the bowl prep and being able to experience this and fulfill his, commitment to this team.
What did you learn about Tyler and Ty Simpson when you started playing in South Florida and then obviously having to go back and be backups to Jalen for the rest of the year?
Yeah, I mean, I think the entire room has been tremendous about supporting one another. You look at the South Florida game, the way Jalen was supportive of them. You look vice versa throughout the course of the season, Jalen starts having success. I think there was true happiness for him from the group. When you're in that room together as much as we are, you build really a strong rapport and really like a family-like atmosphere. And, for them to all support one another. And, we try to preach as much as we can. There's one quarterback playing, but we're after shared success. We're after the ability to say when a quarterback is playing well, it's a reflection of the entire group. And, the closeness that group has built throughout the season through a competitive offseason and all those things, when you look back on it, you'd probably be as proud of that as anything.
Where's Ty Simpson improved since the spring?
Yeah, I mean, I think you just see the reps he's had and the opportunities he's had in games. You've seen his ability to stay calm out there, make good decisions, make good throws. We have a ton of confidence in him as the 2 right now. And, the challenge to him is, like, you got to stay mentally ready every single week. And I think he's done a really nice job doing that. And when he's had opportunities to play, he's made plays for us.
Tommy, one guy you just added to that room is Julian Sane. I know it's super early, but just kind of early impressions on how he fits in with that group and what he can do on the field.
Yeah, I think his personality fits in really well. He's a natural passer. Really shows good instincts, in terms of his ability to play the quarterback position. It's extremely early, but, he's done a nice job for us, and I expect him to continue to grow in the program as he goes through an off season and, gets ready for spring practice.
Just because Proctor's improvement at left tackle, is there a certain point of the season where you really saw him adjust to SEC game speed, and how beneficial has that been for the entire offense?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, you probably point after Arkansas, from that point forward, you kind of see a change in his play. I think the run game wise, he's been, that's probably the area where he was strongest throughout the year. I mean, you guys have all seen him. I'm sure he's a big, strong, powerful man. So being able to move at the point of attack, he's done a really nice job there. And then in the pass game, look, he had to adjust to some of the speed and some of the challenges that come with playing in the SEC. But, I think we look at him as a strength now and somebody that's greatly improved throughout the season. I mean, he's a young kid that's coming in and starting the SEC at left tackle. That's not an easy task. So, his ability to continue to grow and work and get better throughout the season has obviously helped our offense. I think the other guys up front, being supportive of him, you want that group of 5 to look at it through one lens. And, Tyler Booker next to him, that makes a huge impact in his ability to communicate and help him. Obviously Book played as a young freshman a year ago. So, his growth has been great. Again, I think we look at him as a strength now. And that's, again, a lot of credit to him and the work he's put in.
Tommy, when you got this job, early 30s, I think it was 30 years old, I asked Coach Saban, what's the difference of a 30-year-old compared to you? He looked at me like I was crazy. He said, there's no difference at all. What is your advice to people in their early 30s trying to take a big position like this? I mean, you got coaches that were head coaches that are under you now in the staff. What's your advice, and how has that been so far this year?
To be humble, I would say would be the best advice I could give somebody. First of all, take the challenge, but work hard and really be humble. Like, don't act like you got all the answers because you don't. Don't act like you've been through all the experiences because you haven't. Lean on the people that you trust, because we have a great group of coaches, analysts, GAs. Like, it's the support we have on our staff is tremendous. Like Ken Wisenhunt hired me when I was 23 to be an offensive assistant with the San Diego Chargers, and he was the offensive coordinator. Now he's an analyst on offense, and I'm the offensive coordinator. So, like, he was tremendous in my development as a young coach, and now he's somebody I can lean on. Derek Dooley was the head coach at Tennessee, has worked in the NFL. He's a guy I can lean on, through all questions that you have. So I think the humility to not act like you got all the answers, because you don't, and the ability to just work hard, treat people well, and then take the challenge of the job that presents itself. I'm not trying to be some motivational speaker for a bunch of young guys, but put the work in so you're ready for your opportunity, and then have the humility to continue to learn and grow while you're going through it.
I know in the past with analysts, like Sark might help out with third down or Coach Oxford with red zone. Like with guys like Ken Wisenhunt and Derek Julick, do you give them like special projects or specialties to help you with?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, I don't want to get into all the details of what each guy's tasks are, but that's exactly how you handle it. And, you have a wealth of knowledge in the room. And, look, we don't have all the, like one thing I say is like if we're going to all think alike, then nobody's thinking very much, right? And so we want ideas, we want input, we want different ways to view things. We don't want groupthink where everything gets streamlined into one idea. We want to challenge what we're able to do offensively. We want to challenge the ideas that get brought in. And, the more people feel like they have the ability to do that, the more you can enhance the group. And so that's something we welcome. Guys have specific areas of the game plan that we try to focus on, but, it's a revolving door of ideas. Sometimes they fit into what we're trying to do. Sometimes they don't. But, the more you're able to bring that to the table, the more guys with a lot of knowledge feel like they can, pitch things and make sure that they have a voice with what we're trying to do offensively.
Isaiah Bond said that he was asked about the sign stealing scandal and said that players haven't been watching as much film on their iPads. I guess can you speak to why coaches felt that was sort of the decision to make and how maybe you guys have had to change plan or prep from
yeah. I understand the question and I respect it. I'm not putting any of my focus into that stuff, so I really don't have a whole lot to say about, whatever was going on there. We're just trying to give our players the best chance to have success on the field.
All right, we're going to go ahead and have the players and coaches switch rooms.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, there you go. With Brett Elmore, I'm Mick Gillispie, and you heard it, man. The last question was about the sign stealing, which is something that we're going to talk about. I want to say hey to you guys all watching right now and hanging out with us. Lila, thank you for the super chat, and I will have a drink for you and your dad. So roll tide to you in Kentucky. Stacy, roll tide, and all of you guys, man. Thank you for hanging out with us to talk about this football game. I'm pumped about it, Brett. But I'll tell you what, I'm really shocked that Alabama would tell the guys, hey, you can't watch the film, any film on your iPad unless there was a reason why. And you and I talked about this earlier today, and I'll say it on here. Either some coach from one of the other teams said, hey, these guys are capable of stealing your, the ability to see your plays on, what you give your players on the iPad. Or George Hilo, who used to coach there and then was hired by Alabama, said, hey, they can steal your video off your iPad. It's part of their sign stealing scandal, which might be a little bit more deeper than that. Or this is just a precaution, but it's one of the three.
Yeah, it's one of the three. And I tend to believe that maybe they had some intel. I really don't think you would do this unless because that's going pretty far to make sure that you don't use your iPad, something that you've been doing all season long. I mean, it's a different way to prepare for the ball game. Coach Rees did not want to talk much about it. Some of the players went a little more in depth about it. They kind of like it because they're all watching together and it kind of builds a little more team chemistry. But they're not able to take their iPad with them and eat breakfast and watch film or watch some film at night. They have to do it together. And I don't know. I don't know where it's all come from, but that's been the big news of the day. And if it's not only sign stealing and it's going much further, like tapping into people's iPads, this could be a huge story.
Well, we saw it with the Houston Astros, who won the 2017 Baseball World Series, and they were stealing signs. They were using their cameras to steal signs. They also might have even had guys wired so that they would be able to basically communicate with vibrations on what pitch was coming. So technology to get an advantage in sporting events is something that we saw in baseball, but we really never thought about it much in football until now, right? And I saw this the other day, and I thought it was worth talking about. The Cowboys and the Bills played twice in the Super Bowl. And I want to say it was the first time that they played, which might have been 93, 92, 93, one of those games, maybe 91. But back then, okay, the first of two straight Super Bowls between those teams.
Mm-hmm.
And Jimmy Johnson said that he was watching the news. And on the news, they had the Bills practice, which you had to let the news in to film 10 or 15 minutes of your practice.
Right.
And you're like, well, what could happen in 10 or 15 minutes? So he's watching the news just at his hotel room, and he sees Jim Kelly shovel passing the ball to Thurman Thomas. So he calls his offensive coordinator, and he's like, hey, or defensive coordinator. He's like, hey, do you remember seeing those guys use a shovel pass on any of their game film? No. Well, they tried it 3 times in that Super Bowl. One of them turned out to be a fumble.
Wow.
And they picked it up off of watching the news.
Yeah.
So being able to watch film, being able to watch teams walk through and practice, it's a big deal.
Yes, it is, and that's why normally practice is always closed, a lot of time. But yeah, I mean, you can pick up things. But that's the big top of the day is the sign stealing stuff, but this is the first time we've heard from Tommy Rees since before the season started. We don't get to hear from the offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator or any of the assistants much. Your thoughts about kind of what he had to say? I think it was all coach speak, really. But we didn't get a whole lot from it, I don't think. But still good to hear from him. And hard to believe the guy was born about when that game he was talking about. He was born in 92, man. Making us feel old. Making us feel old, man. He's 31.
Yeah. I thought he handled himself really well.
Oh, yeah. He does.
We don't get a chance to see the coordinators. Saban's the voice and the face of the program. And one of the reasons why is exactly why he doesn't want people talking is what's happened today. Mm-hmm. He didn't want the media to talk about the iPad situation, and there's no chance. He just doesn't like any of that stuff. But when you get people in front of the media, what are you going to have meetings and say, hey, don't talk about this, don't talk about this, don't talk about this, And so that became the news of the day. But I thought Tommy Rees handled himself well. I liked hearing what he had to say about Jalen Milroe. We posted the Jalen Milroe press conference on the site, so you can go back and watch that. And he talked about, so many different things in his press conference, but one of them was, how he liked working with Tommy Rees and how Bill O'Brien mentioned to him that he thought he should play another position. And he used that as motivation. And to me, I thought that maybe doing that last year would have just got him on the field a little more, and where he could have used his amazing ability to run. But, obviously he's proven that, he did exactly what he needed to do, and that's play quarterback.
Yeah. I don't totally disagree with maybe, looking back on it, maybe playing a different position to get on the field, like you mentioned, and get him some experience out there on the field. But sort of like you said, he kind of got the last laugh. I mean, here he is, playing in the, Final Four, the playoffs, and he kind of got the last laugh. But yeah, Milroe, Rees, very high on Milroe, and I think they're able to relate to one another. Of course, because Rees was a quarterback there at Notre Dame, and I think because too of his age, he's a young guy, young coordinator, and he can kind of relate a little more to the players. But and I think he was talking too about where did he see the turnaround really in the offense. Of course, he mentioned the USF game, but he thought a couple of the bigger games were the Texas A&M game and the LSU game.
Yeah, right. And I thought that too. Paul's got a great question, and if any of you guys want to chime in, do it right now. He said, hey, guys, help me out. Why wouldn't the players be able to view footage on their tablet prior to the game? I don't understand that. Basically, they put stuff on those tablets, right, that they want the team to learn, to watch, to know. And for some reason, they feel like Michigan is able to view that somehow.
Somehow, I don't know how.
Somehow it's either tapping into the system that Alabama uses, and there's a reason why. We don't know what's on those films, like, hey, we want you guys to concentrate on this. We think they're going to run this play. We want us to run this play on offense. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of things that you can glean off of being able to look at those tablets, because they're probably set up for the players to be able to go in there and focus on the things that they feel like they're going to need in the football game. And if Michigan has been able to not only steal signs by having a guy go to games and learn signs that the other teams are using and then incorporate that, but if they're able to tap into the digital system that these opponents are having, then that certainly could give them a huge advantage. And the teams in the Big Ten must feel like Michigan has done a lot of things that are outside of the rules, because it was the teams in the Big Ten that turned them in for the sign stealing. And they play Michigan all the time. Michigan's beaten Ohio State 3 straight years after just getting worn out by them year after year after year, right? But if you knew the play that your opponent was going to run, you could defend it. I got a great story, too, about NFL cheating. The Broncos hired the Patriots offensive coordinator. I forget what the guy's name is. He just got fired by the Broncos this year. You know what I'm talking about, Brett?
His name's not coming to me. The offensive coordinator.
I'll tell you right now.
Yeah, I was about to say, look it up, because I can't think of
Josh McDaniels. Okay, Josh McDaniels. Okay, so Josh McDaniels was hired by the Broncos, and I heard one of the players on the team talking about this. First, 5 games, they won them all with him. And one of the players that was on the team said he would say, hey, if they're running this play, go to this spot. And if you don't turn around, they're going to hit you in the back of the head with the football. And the guy's like, it happened. Like, turn around, interception, whatever. Well, 5 games in, they figured out after they won all 5 that they were filming the walkthrough.
Oh, wow.
So they were able to, and with the walkthrough, they were able to see what was going on certain plays. And then after they weren't allowed to do that anymore and they got busted, they started to lose all the time, and this was when he was at the Broncos, not the Raiders. But the bottom line is this: if you're able to take advantage of watching walkthroughs, or, if you're able to, to get into what someone's film study is or their playbook, you can certainly use that to help build a game plan. And it's important. Sam says, if you have to cheat, spy, or whatever, it's a sign of weakness. Yeah, but I mean, these guys they're like 25-1 in their last 26 games. They've been to the college football playoff this is the 3rd straight year, so they're winning. And for Alabama, they're obviously taking precautions. Remember, Nick Saban was asked this at a press conference like a week ago about what he was going to do with the signs, and he really didn't say a whole lot. But we're finding out that the old ball coach was paying close attention to what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, he said that he really wasn't going to change the way they call their signs and everything. And we really didn't believe that. We had talked about that. But no, I mean, if you have been caught cheating, stealing signs, what makes you think that they may not, be able to tap into your system?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you use the word precaution, and Latham in his interview earlier today, he mentioned, we're just doing this out of precaution. Well, why do you do a lot of things out of precaution? Because maybe somebody told you something.
Yeah, right.
They say, well, they may be able to do this. So out of precaution, you don't do it. So I think there's something there. And like you mentioned at the top of the show, where did it come from? I don't know. But obviously, to me, Alabama has heard something from someone that is making them air to caution and change the way they're doing things out in Pasadena.
Joe wants to know if they were caught, what do you think would happen?
I think it'd be a huge. I think it would be huge.
But they got caught stealing signs, and the punishment was, that the coach got, basically got punished for 3 games. Now, the NCAA hasn't really chimed in, right? Because
no,
it'll take years for them to do something. And one of the problems is that the NCAA is like a toothless dog. I mean, they can sit over there and bark, but
Yeah, I mean, but stealing signs is one thing, because the guy paid for a ticket and he goes in and he steals signs. Is there anything? What if they're going through the internet to tap into these systems?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that open up a whole different can of worms?
Oh yeah, it would. I mean, I definitely think it would. But yeah, I mean, and Sam, you mentioned it. We kind of talked about this before. Alabama bringing George Hilo back, who was on Michigan's staff and got let go last year, and then the guy that they replaced him with was one of the guys that got fired over the sign stealing. But maybe he is the guy that said, "Hey, you know what? You need to make sure that you don't use any of your iPads," because he would know, right? I mean, if he was there.
You kind of gave 3 options out there. If I had to choose one, that's where I would say it came from. I think that's probably where it came from.
So it's really interesting. I worry that changing up the routine could hurt Alabama.
Yeah.
Like if you're a player and you're used to, kind of studying the game plan on your iPad, and now you don't have the option to do that, how's that going to affect you? But then again, it may be good because you're in a room and you're in there with your position, your different position players and coaches. And maybe, you're like, it makes it a little bit easier because there's more people in there with you to study. I don't know. I mean, like there's a lot of stuff that we don't understand here, but the fact that they did this, and knowing Saban's not an overreaction guy. He's not the type of dude that's like just going to jump up and freak out. He's got a reason to do everything that he does, all the way down to the South Florida game where he's going to take Milroe out and put the other guys in, just to let everyone in the world know that Milroe is the best quarterback on the team.
Yeah. And I don't know if it was like I said, we heard from, I think, 4 players today, and I'm not sure who said it. And I believe it was Latham, actually. He was talking about what you mentioned about changing the system there of how they study film and the freedom that they had during the season of, he said, I'd go eat breakfast and I could carry my iPad with me and I could watch some film, or I could go when I had a break between class, whatever, and watch film. But he said, now they're having to make sure that they crunch as much time as they can in to watch film together. As one, there's going to be pros and cons to it. And I think one of the pros is, and he mentioned this, was, you're sitting there watching film with all the guys, and it's a bunch of different eyes watching this film, and folks are pointing out maybe what you didn't see, or this guy's doing this, look at what he's doing here. And so Annie said just kind of the team building stuff, them actually watching film together and knowing that they can, they've got to crunch all this film study in together. And but it does change your routine, and you hate that as you get into the bowl game. Will that change if Alabama wins? Will they go back to the iPad? And,
yeah. Oh, yeah. I think so.
Obviously, So
and it makes you wonder, like, what are some of the what are some of the things that you can do these days to get an advantage? Sending a guy to games that you're not in.
I don't know.
that
Ask
can
Jim
crack
Harbaugh.
signs.
Apparently, he does everything.
Yeah, right. I mean, and it's if you're not cheating, you're not trying. I mean, isn't that the old saying there?
Right. I don't know, man. Apparently Harbaugh has it all figured out of every advantage you can get.
If that's the case, I mean, I just can't imagine Alabama doing this for no reason. And then obviously you never hear from the offensive coordinator. Tommy Rees didn't really want to get into it. The players talked about it today. That's kind of how it got out. I'm going to talk with Michael Casagrande of AL.com coming up on a really soon. So then I'll post it on the YouTube channel so you guys can watch it. I'm curious to know what he's the guy that broke the story. I'm just curious to know like what he thinks about it and kind of how that translates to what's going on. And we'll have a better idea when we do talk to him, about this situation. But the thing to me is, if you're the NCAA and you don't make an example out of Michigan at some point, how are you ever going to stop this?
No, you're not. I mean, as long as Harbaugh's still there, I think. And who knows? He could bolt for the NFL after this.
It feels like that's what's going to happen. And I know a lot of the Michigan fans argued with us for saying that. But every year he's always flirting with the NFL. And then this is the year where he twice got suspended. Now, one of them was pretty ridiculous. Like, I'll take up for him. Buying someone a hamburger on a recruiting trip used to be
that's ridiculous.
It used to be a punishment offense. And that's part of the reason that the NCAA found themselves in this situation. Like, they're over there making money hand over fist, these universities and and obviously the NCAA, and then they don't want like the players to benefit for any of it. Well, then now, with the NIL and everything else, like the players are actually, starting to, to reap some of the financial benefit, but it's out of hand. There's really there's no guardrails to it. And so I don't have a problem with that one. And you know what, if you want to buy someone a hamburger, I mean, damn, you should be able to do that. But when you start getting into stealing signs and, and tapping into someone else's technology, if that's what happened here, these are big issues, and they're a competitive advantage issues. And when I look at the Houston Astros 2017 World Series team, I have no respect for them. I don't count that. Maybe Major League Baseball didn't want to step in and hold them accountable, but as a objective fan, I don't consider them a World Series champion. And if I was them, I'd be ashamed to have one of those World Series rings. Now, the one they won 2 years ago, different story. But that one, if you had to cheat to win, then you should they should have stripped them of the title.
Right. Well, we'll see what comes of all this. Like I mentioned, it's going to be a very intriguing interview with Michael Casagrande, because he's out there right in the middle of things. So I'm sure he's heard a lot about what has transpired with this whole iPad situation and the film study. But like I said, 4 days away. Who knows what big story may come out of tomorrow, man? I'm starting to feel it. I'm starting to feel it, man. Gearing up for the big game on Monday. It's here. It's getting close.
Yeah, it's exciting. I've got some great shows coming up. Andrew Bone is going to join us on the Tailgate Show, which will air Sunday night. We'll also hear from him earlier than that during the week. The voice of the Crimson Tide, Chris Stewart, will be on with us as well. He'll talk about calling the game and, and how cool that is and help us preview that. I mentioned that we'll hear from Michael Casagrande, Baron Huber is going to be on the tailgate show. So you got the former Alabama player and the guy that actually started the tailgate show, and many more. I mean, like we're just going to keep on grinding it out. This is what we live for here. This is Alabama football at its best, and playing Michigan in this game. As we break it down, how this thing's going to turn out, what's going to happen. It's exciting, and it really is kind of, it's really a dream matchup, and what's crazy to me is that they don't count the 2009 game as a Rose Bowl game because it was actually the BCS National Championship game. So this is the first time that Alabama's played in the Rose Bowl in years.
Yeah. Well, was the COVID year, was that supposed to be a Rose Bowl year? I can't remember.
Maybe it was.
You remember when they moved it to, was it Dallas?
Yeah, they did move it to Dallas, but yeah, I think you may be right.
Rose Bowl year, but of course they didn't get to go. But I think they still I don't know if they still called it the Rose Bowl. I don't know. That was a weird year anyway. I try to block all that out. I try to forget all about that.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I mean, no, we haven't been Rose Bowl in quite some time.
So we'll be talking about that. We'll be previewing that. Brett, anything else before we pack it up? You guys got any questions or anything you want to talk about before we wrap this portion of today up? Here's one. Let me pull this up from Sam here. Guys, I feel like Bama's defense has to win this game. They have to step up. Bama has allowed 20 points plus in 7 of their last 8 games. Yeah, well, here's a couple things. First off, Bama has done an excellent job of playing defense in the second half of football games, right? I mean, like they give up less than 10 points in the second half. And that includes some pretty big matchups against teams like Georgia and LSU, right? What worries me about this game is that Michigan has a very deep defensive line. And Alabama's going to have to run with their backs, which, by the way, Chase McClellan is going to be back for this game. But, we talked to Mike Johnson. You guys check that interview out if you didn't see it. He's a Roydell Williams guy. He's like, hey, I think Roydell Williams is the best, pretty much got the feeling that he thought Roydell really matched his team as like the best running back. Bama's going to have to run the ball with them, and then also Jalen Milroe.
Yeah, it's Jalen and going to have to run the football. And then I think we need to get off to a fast start. Michigan, I don't think is built to come from behind. It'd be nice to get off to a fast start, and maybe we will. We'll just we'll see what the game plan is. And like we said in the show before, if the Alabama of LSU game shows up, we win big.
Yeah. Joel says Alabama statistically the ninth in total defense in the second half of the season. I believe that. Yeah. I thought they did better and better as the year went on. None of us were calling for Pete Golding to return. I think that we felt very good about that. I think we all felt very good about Kevin Steele and him and the way that he operated his defense. I was pretty happy about the way that he was able to do that.
Sorry about that. I forgot to silence my phone. But yeah, we were not begging for the Golding to come back. No, and we do seem to play a little bit better in the second half defensively.
I think that the question to me is that was JJ McCarthy injured? Is that why he wasn't able to throw the football down the back stretch of the season? And remember, we talked about this. He was 18 touchdowns and 3 interceptions beginning of the season, threw 3 INTs against Bowling Green. And then he only threw 1 touchdown the rest of the way, but they beat Ohio State and they beat Maryland and they beat Penn State, and they didn't have to throw the football. So, I mean, so he ended up with 19 touchdowns, but it really looked like he was out there playing injured.
Could have been. But he's 100% now, right?
Well, you would think that. I mean,
you would think so. I haven't heard anything otherwise. But I don't know. And like Ben said, Bama will stop the run. Can JJ put this game on his shoulders is the question.
Here's another one from Sam. He says, Jalen has to be decisive in his decision-making and know when to tuck the football and run. I did a show yesterday. You guys check it out on Roll Tide Pods with Jake Coker. We kind of grinded out an hour and a half. It's almost like two shows in one, right?
Yeah.
And he said the same thing. You know, he's just like, you got to take these games like these are it. Like you got to run, you know, and you just got to tuck the ball and take off and be decisive and, you know, not worry about the next game. You got to win this one and then worry about the next one. And I felt like Milroe at times this year, particularly against Auburn, looked like he was a little indecisive on running, and it almost felt like he was told not to run, but Alabama needed him to run. And then, you know, obviously it came down to the Gravedigger play, and Alabama won. So, but I agree. I think that's a great point, Sam, and I agree with that a lot. And I think Alabama's got to get off to a quick start. They don't want to be in a back and forth game, you know, with field goals and stuff like that with Michigan and keep them around and feeling confident. They've got their ass kicked in both of their college football playoff games against Georgia and TCU. You want to come in and continue that where early on they're like, we're going to lose again, and then just pour it on them.
The tradition continues. That's what you want. Yeah. No, I agree with Sam. It seems like Milroe has been all season long kind of skeptical about running the football, tucking it in and run, you know, and then you'll be sitting there watching the ball game and you'll be yelling at the TV, run,
yeah,
run the ball. Because it's proven he's got the wheels, and and he's right. He's very indecisive. Yeah. Throw that out the window, man. We're tuck the ball in, run when you have to and when you can. If you see that opening, go for it.
Yeah. Here's another great point. JM12 Green's like, I think Michigan is plenty capable of beating us. So when I see fan base assuming this is vintage Alabama, just show up and win by double digits, I kind of laugh. Look, I've been and you guys know from, you know, hanging out on here, I've been concerned about that part of this matchup. And I'm going to tell you why. I think that Alabama's going to go in there and run past these guys. But this Michigan team has some things that could make that difficult. First off, they have this defensive line where they basically rotate three lines of guys that are going to be able to rush the passer and make plays. The second thing is that J.J. McCarthy is a lot like Jay Barker to me. You know, nothing jumps off the table except the guy is a winner. And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing you can be. He's not going to make a ton of mistakes, you don't think, to lose, you know, and then to keep you in the game, and then all of a sudden anything can happen. And we've seen it in the past with some of these officiating, you know, some of this officiating, you know, a penalty here or a penalty there at the wrong time could really change things around and keep this one close, you know. The other thing is that this Michigan team, after that butt whooping they took last year, they were all motivated to come back and play this entire season to get to this point. You know, they've been trying to get to this point all year, and they thought they were going to play Florida State, which would have been an easy win for them. Instead, they're going to have to tangle with Alabama. But if they beat Alabama, I mean, you talk about exercising the demons. Bama's been the best team in the college football playoff. Michigan's been the worst. You know, so there's a lot of motivation in there. Plus, they have the experience of playing in back-to-back college football playoffs. So, you know, anything can happen. You're talking about, you know, 2 time zones away from where we're at right now. Jalen Milroe has, you know, this is his first year. He's never played in a game like this before. Well, I guess he did against Georgia. But, I mean, there's some things that could go wrong. Now, I feel like this. The path of Michigan beating Alabama is a lot narrower than Alabama beating Michigan, right? Like, Michigan's going to have a lot of things go their way. Bama's going to have to turn it over. They're going to have to be able to run the football. You know, they're going to have to get some penalties at the right time. You know, that's the kind of stuff that would happen. You know, like when Alabama lost to Ole Miss that one year, and there was like the ball that went off the guy's helmet when the quarterback was about to get sacked. Yeah. They're going to need some of the Auburn Jesus type stuff, but it could happen. for Bama, I think Bama could beat Michigan in a low-scoring game. I think Bama will beat Michigan in a high-scoring game. I think Bama could win a game where both teams just run a lot. And I just feel like Alabama has more speed and more athletes. And the other thing that Alabama has over Michigan is, I mean, you look at the recruiting classes, Bama's going to have better players at a lot of the positions. Michigan would have more experience, but they lost their best offensive lineman, a first-round pick in Zinter, in that game to Ohio State. So there's a lot of ways for Alabama to win, and I know that's why our fan base feels so confident. Plus, I love the fact that Vegas has not figured out this Alabama team, Brett. Vegas is so wrong on these guys. They're being punished for Bama teams of the past. This is a Bama team that, to me, if I was handicapping, should probably be a 4 to 7 point favorite over Michigan.
And I think the line went to what, 2 on Michigan's favor?
Yep.
Yeah. So it went up. And what did I say the total was? 57? Is that what I said?
Yeah.
It's 57 and a half, something like that. So, yeah, they haven't really figured out the Tide, but it's going to be a great game. And so you think it's going to be a high-scoring affair?
Well, I said if it was, I think Alabama would win that.
We'll still win that, and
or they could win a low-scoring game. I don't think Michigan could win a shootout because Bama will make some plays defensively.
Yeah.
I would think to stop them. Here's a great question. Sam wants to know what we thought about Jalen acknowledging about Bill O'Brien telling him that he needed to switch positions. You know what, man? I'll leave that up there. I saw that and I got the feeling that, Jalen used that as motivation, that maybe that was hurtful to him. And to me, if I'm thinking about last year's team, and I'm thinking that if Milroe had switched positions, it would have benefited Alabama to get the ball in his hand, because he wasn't going to beat Bryce Young out for the quarterback job. But I thought last year Bill O'Brien did a horrible job of being creative. And maybe if you had Jalen Milroe playing, coming in the slot or, doing something, then maybe it could have helped you, score more points in some of these football games. And they could have used that in that LSU game. And if they'd have won the LSU game, I think they would have won the championship last year.
Yeah, we were talking about it earlier. Put him in the slot, maybe some speed sweep plays, and that would have really helped his confidence coming into this season on what we were just talking about a few minutes ago, running the football. Put him in the slot and then just get it in your playmaker's hands, obviously. And he's a playmaker, and it would have helped us last year, and I think it would have helped him with his confidence this year.
Burkhardt, thank you, man. 3,000 subscribers, man. We just got there. We started this site on basically the first Friday before the start of the season. And I didn't know that we were going to start this channel, but it's been fun getting to know you guys, and please spread the word, man. Share and, tell your Bama friends about it. Put the shows and stuff on any of your socials like Facebook and stuff like that. But I appreciate it. I'm proud that we got the 3,000 this week, and I'm proud that we're already rolling right by it. So it takes a lot of it really takes a lot of hard work to build a channel. And the channel I was on before, had 90,000 subscribers, but when I got there, they had 20 some. So. Over the course of 3 years, we just kept building and building, and then now I'm doing the same thing myself. And so, and with you guys, and it's a small, 3,000 is small when you look at it, but it's also from where we started, it has grown a lot. So, so thank you guys for being a part of that. And Burkhardt, thanks for saying that, man. And please spread the word.
The hardest working man in Alabama football talk is right above me right here. you go, Mick. Mick, man. I'm looking forward to it's always nice to jump on here with you and looking forward to the ball game, man, and looking forward to all the great content you got coming up with Michael Casagrande and, of course, Chris Stewart previewing the game, and it's going to be here before you know it. And we got some bowl games on now.
I know.
Starting to get into those good bowl games. You know, some of the ranked teams. Watched Texas A&M last night.
Yeah.
Totally different team.
Yeah. Who were those guys?
Yeah. Who are those guys? Where did they come from?
Yeah. Well, look, guys, thanks for hanging out with us, Brett. Thanks for jumping on. And, sure. Hopefully Saban's press conference yesterday, the audio was so bad. It was like they did it in an auditorium of middle school kids, right, yeah. It just wasn't even worth posting. So we'll continue to, like we always do, post stuff, sometimes get on here and talk about it. And then again, Andrew Bone and I will be talking recruiting. Chris Stewart and I will be talking about this matchup. Michael Casagrande going to give us some insight on the sign stealing stuff and the iPad. So all that coming up. All right. So Roll Tide, guys, like and subscribe. Thanks for hanging out.